Okay, for the angled block stitch, we're going to use Stylecraft Special Aran, and I'm using it in a parchment shade 1218 and a 6mm hook. Okay, so today we're going to be crocheting angled blocks, and when it's done it's going to be a cowl. So we'll get started. So you need multiples of 7 plus 8. So I've got 36. Right, so to start with, we want to put 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going into that chain. 2 double crochet. And this starting chain 3 that we've skipped counts as a double crochet. Okay, so then we're going to skip the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Single crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2. And then we're going to do a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we're just going to repeat that now for that first row. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and single crochet into the next chain, and then 2 chain, and then 3 DC in the next 3 chain. 1, 2, 3. Just going to keep repeating that. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet into the next chain, 2 chain, single crochet into the next, double crochet into the next 3, so you can see this sort of angled block shape appearing now. You've getting this zigzag edge with it. Okay, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet. So it's quite a straightforward stitch, but really effective. Looks a lot more complicated than it is. Chain 2, and then double crochet into the next 3. 1, 2, 3. So we're coming to our last group now. Okay, so to finish, we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're just going to single crochet into that last space. And that's row 1 done. Okay, let's have a look at it. Yeah, looks good. So then we're going to turn, and I'll show you how to do the next row, and these rows will just repeat for the full length of the cowl, because we're going to join it at the ends to make a complete circle. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work and start on row 2. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll find that first single crochet, which was the last single crochet from the previous row, and we're going to do 2 double crochet into there, because that 3 chain again counts as 1 double crochet. And that's our edge cluster. And then we're going to skip 3 DC this time, and we want to pick up that top of that chain 2 that we did on the other side with a single crochet, and then we'll chain 2, and this time we're going to go into this 2 chain space, but we're going to put 3 DC into there. So most of the clusters are made up of 4, apart from the edge clusters, which are made up of 3. 3 DC into that 2 chain space, and then we're just going to repeat that process. So we've got skipping 3 DC, picking up that top of the 2 chain with a single crochet, 2 chain, 3 DC into the 2 chain space, and so on. So we'll have a look at that. So you can see that now starting to emerge, that pattern. So it's going to be really nice texture for a chunky cowl. So finish this row, we're going to skip the next 3, 1, 2, 3, single crochet into the top of the chain 2. So I feel like it's quite a straightforward stitch once you get going, because you're just looking for the chain 2 to work into and put in the 3 double crochets in that 2 chain space. Okay, next 3 we've skipped into that top of the 2 chain, chain 2, so on. And at the end of this row, we're just going to work the last single crochet into the chain 2. Sorry, the turning chain. 1, 2, 3, and then skip. And then this time we can only skip those, but we've obviously got that acting as one of the double crochets, and we're going to single crochet into, find the top of the turning chain. It's always a bit tricky to work into the back of a chain. Looks strange from the back. And then single crochet. So that is 2 rows done, and the next row is just the repeat, the same as the previous row, but I'm just going to show you how to start this end because it is a bit different from what we did at that end. Okay, so we're going to chain 3, and it's a bit easier to see that first single crochet on this row than it was on the previous row. 2 DC into there, just like we did on the last row. And it grows nice and quickly as well. Just remember we're only putting 2 DC into that cluster. Skip the next 3, find the top of the 2, single crochet, and then 2 chain, and then into that space, 3 double crochets this time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then skip that single crochet. We can always ignore that one because we're just going to skip these 3 double crochets, and we're always looking for the top of that next 2 chain. Single crochet into there, 2 chain, 3 double crochet. So I think you'll find that in this chunky yarn, or aran, should I say, it will make up quite quickly. So it could be a good one to make to sell, and it's definitely a lovely one to give as a gift. So I'll come back to you once my cowl is ready to sew up. But for now, I just enjoy repeating this nice design for quite a few more rows. You can obviously make it as long as you want, or if you're calling it wide, if it's you know, the sort of the bit, the circumference, shall we say. You can obviously just keep going and decide how long you want that to be. Just keep trying it on. But yeah, I think it's just a nice thing to keep repeating. It's quite a therapeutic stitch, isn't it? Okay, so we'll skip those last 3, and then don't forget we're going into the turning chain right at the end, that top of that 3 chain, with a single crochet. So we're just going to carry on in that way. When we come to join it together, we can match up the zigzag, and then it'll be a nice continuous flow of the block, the angled block design. Right, so I actually went back and decided to make my cowl a little bit wider. Try and show you that. Yep, so I've done like 8 repeats of the block stitch, just because the other width was looking a little bit too skinny for what I was doing. So obviously it's easy enough to make more stitches if you want to make a deeper cowl. Okay, so when you come into seam it, a little bit different on this one because it's going to be zigzag sort of edge, the way that the stitch naturally finishes. This is why I've done the cowl this way round, so it would have a straight top and bottom, rather than doing it with the stitches going that way. Otherwise it'd have a zigzag top and bottom, which might have looked quite nice, but I prefer to have it nice and straight. Right, so joining up is slightly tricky, but as you can see, the 2 ends will sit together, thankfully. So we're going to start at the top. So I've left a long tail to use to sew. And then going to take my hook and put it in the first stitch of the seam, but which was the last stitch I did on the angle block repeat. And then I'm just going to keep it flat like this. If we turn it up like that, you'll notice that they don't match. So we need to, and it would obviously have spikes if it was to be matching. So that wouldn't look very good. So what we need to do is sort of slip stitch flat, like you might have done sometimes when you joining a granny square blanket or something like that. That's how you do it for that kind of project as well. Right, so like I say, it's going to be a bit fiddly, so I'm not going to film the whole thing because I will need to reposition this. It's going to be too tricky for me to do the whole thing and film it, but we're just going to slip stitch through and then move along as we go. So matching up, not always stitch for stitch, but as long as you keep them lined up in that zigzag seam, then you will get a nice neat finish. Okay, so you can see that I'm going in through the 2 loops from the last lot of stitches, and obviously on this side we've got a chain because that was the starting chain. So we will have 2 loops on that side, 1 loop on that side, taking the yarn through and then taking it through the stitch that's on the hook. So it is a little bit fiddly and time consuming to do it laid flat, but as I say, it's going to look a lot better than trying to do it up in front of you where it won't sort of line up properly when it's held up like that. So if you keep it flat like that, and it's if you prefer, if you're finding the slip stitching together just too tricky, you can use a needle and thread and whip stitch it together, which might be easier. But either way, you're just wanting to take this edge and this edge, match up the zigzag and join them together. Right, so that's my seam done. So works quite well with this type of stitch because it's a bit more hidden sometimes than straight seams. Okay, so that's the inside, and I've just finished off the ends, and then if I turn it through, you can see it's pretty much invisible. So yeah, it works quite well with this type of stitch. So that's my cowl done. So I'm going to put it on a model so I can show you some pictures. And yeah, hopefully you mastered that angled block stitch now and made your own cowl.